This is Vladimir Putin's plan for 2023, the angles that he has, and why is Ukraine plunging into darkness? The Russian President Putin plan for the winter of 2022-23 is starting to take shape. Russia will insist on clearly demarcating territories it has captured in Ukraine, Donetsk, Lugansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson, and will seek to gain territory, especially in Donetsk, where Russian forces control 58% of the territory. It will not use tactical nuclear weapons. It can be used as a deterrent, as a pressure on the West, but Russia is not planning any use of tactical nuclear weapons. However, the plan Putin has the following axes. 1. On the military front, Russia will not give up the territories it has conquered. It has already sent 80,000 new soldiers gathered from the conscription that ended November 1st, 2022. Russia's plan is to keep or even increase the territory it holds, since in various areas Russian forces are occupying territory. 2. Putin wants to use the severe winter in Ukraine to put pressure on the Ukrainian president and to rouse the Ukrainian people against the Ukrainian president's disastrous plans. The constant strikes on Ukraine energy grid are aimed at this. Already 49% to 50% of Ukraine's electricity grid has been destroyed, and Ukraine is plunged into darkness. Recently, the Russians are also hitting the water infrastructure. It's no coincidence that since the Kiev attacks, the capital of Ukraine, has been left without water for up to 40%, or 340,000 apartments. 3. Putin wants to use the winter to put pressure on the West, especially in Europe, since the energy crisis may intensify and societies may rise up against their governments, and thus support against Ukraine may collapse. In Europe, they may say they are prepared, but preparation is relative. If the winter is mild, then yes, Europe will succeed. But if the winter is severe, there will be social reactions. Already recently, there have been demonstrations in many European countries against the sanctions on Russia. 4. Even Biden, the U.S. president, did not hide his irritation towards the Ukrainian President Zelensky, who is the international beggar asking for weapons and money greedily, and Biden had to put a brake on his constant claims. In fact, at one point, Biden, having lost his temper, told Zelensky, "Show some gratitude." The American people have been generous enough, and their government and the U.S. military have been working hard to help Ukraine, Biden said, raising his voice, and Zelensky could show a little more gratitude, Biden said. To date, the U.S. has provided $18.5 billion in financial aid to Ukraine and continues to support Ukraine, and as some have pointed out, Biden is so angry that he sent Zelensky billions more. 5. The expected Republican victory November 8, 2022 in the U.S. midterm elections will limit Biden's moves in Ukraine as Republicans demand control over the money and weapon systems delivered to Ukraine. If the Americans limit support on Ukraine, then Zelensky regime will sooner or later collapse, and the West easily forgets. Number 6. Russia has also aimed to weaken Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, since the collapse of energy and water infrastructure may lead Ukrainian citizens to protest against Zelensky's policies and tactics. Ukraine plunges into darkness. Ukraine continues to sink into darkness. Since the early hours of October 31st, dozens of Russian missiles and unmanned drones went against military and energy infrastructures across Ukraine. The latest was on the energy system, where described as catastrophic at an energy meeting of the Ukrainian government in Kiev. Ukraine's power grid almost collapsed. So far, more than 40 key facilities of Ukraine's electrical grids have been hit, including the largest facilities such as Dnepro GES, Yuzhno-Dniester, HPP, Kanevskaya, and Kremenchug HPP. Ukrainian officials claim that 18 targets were hit October 31st, while air defense forces took out 44 out of the 50 areas launched by the Russian Federation. It's unclear how Russian forces managed to hit 18 facilities with 6 missiles. The propaganda has limits. No water due to damage to the energy infrastructure in the capital of Ukraine. About 40% of residents remain without water supply, and at least 350,000 apartments in the city were left without electricity. The target is the infrastructure in Kyiv. One of the hits hit Kanevskaya HPP in Cherkasky region. The HPP was used to compensate for the lack of power in Kyiv region, as well as to supply electricity to the east of the country through the Kremenchug HPP in the city of Svetlovodsk in the Kirovograd region, which was also bombed. Now, the shelling of the stations reduced the supply of electricity to industrial areas. This occurred on the Dnepro GES in the Zaporizhzhia region, which is Ukraine's largest hydroelectric power station. According to reports, one of the hits hit a substation connecting to Dnepro GES, and a region in Odessa was also hit. Explosions reported at Lviv, which is all the way west on the Ukrainian western border. It's one of the main sources of energy in the southwest of Ukraine. Ukraine lacks the necessary resources to restore damage to the electricity system, even in an emergency situation. Most of the 330 kilowatt substations have already been taken out. Russian forces already targeted 750 kilowatt plants that receive electricity from Ukrainian nuclear plants, but these stations are almost useless without the necessary transformers, which are already regularly targeted by Russian forces. Ukraine is on the brink of an energy collapse, and the next wave of what may happen may finally plunge the country into darkness. Russian response to this on Sevastopol. On the morning of October 29, the city of Sevastopol in Crimea was attacked by Ukrainian drones. This was the largest attack by a swarm of drones on a Russian city since the start of the Russian military operation in Ukraine. A total of 9 UAVs and 7 British unmanned surface vehicles, USVs, targeted Black Sea Fleet ships and civilian vessels. The operation was coordinated by the US-made RQ-4B Global Hawk reconnaissance UAV, which circles over neutral waters in the Black Sea near Crimea. Black Sea Fleet warships and air defense systems in Sevastopol managed to destroy many targets, and according to local reports, the minesweeper Ivan Golubets suffered a hole in her hull, but the ship is afloat, and the frigate Admiral Makarov suffered minor shrapnel damage to her hull, and her radar system was disabled. The Black Sea Fleet ships that were attacked are participating in the security of the grain corridor as part of the international initiative to export agricultural products from Ukrainian ports. Specialists of the Russian Ministry of Defense received the wreckage of the marine drones and conducted an examination. The analysis of the navigation units made it possible to establish that the SUVs were headed from Odessa through a grain corridor to the Crimean coast. The trace of one of them appeared from the grain corridor security zone, probably carried by a civilian cargo ship. As a result of the military provocation, Russia suspended its participation in the grain agreement. The Russian Navy is likely to resume military operations and once again block Ukrainian shipping in the Black Sea. A few hours after the attack, Russia identified the perpetrators. British specialists based in Ochakov in the Mykolaiv region coordinated the preparation of the attack and trained Ukrainian servicemen of the 73rd Special Naval Operations Center. On October 30th, the Ukrainian Training Center in Ochakov, from where the attack on Sevastopol was coordinated, was hit by Russian missiles. Ukrainian emergency services reported 2 fires in the city after the attack, but as usual reported no damage to military facilities. And according to various sources, warehouses, headquarter buildings, and staff barracks were also destroyed. Russia, after this strike in Sevastopol, and the Russian fleet decided to give a resounding response. It started going against the energy and water network in Kiev, the capital, and other regions of Ukraine that are at risk of energy infrastructure collapse. Energy supply losses across Ukraine were the largest on October 30th and 31st since the start of the Russian military operation. This I've translated for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.